Hello everyone. Today we are excited to represent our Copilot Tuning team to share the latest updates on the product. Today I'm joined here by Khushboo, who leads engineering, Kalyan, who leads product, and Tanaya, who's one of the star product managers in the team. My own background, I joined Microsoft Research about 20 years ago. I'm a PhD in computer science. I've published over 150 papers, have over 100 patents. About last year, so I've worked in different teams across Microsoft, but around last year is when I joined the Microsoft 365 team to lead this effort on Copilot Tuning. And the reason I'm so excited about it is because this particular problem, this particular product that we are working on brings the best of science, best of product, best of engineering, best of infrastructure, and all of this for a really good cause. That is how to personalize AI and make AI more usable through Copilot Tuning. So why do we need Copilot Tuning? Well, many of us know that AI is great. AI is helping us a lot. It has a lot of promise in helping us solve a lot of productivity problems in our day-to-day life. Even though that's the case, when we talk to customers, they often say that we wish that Copilot knew us more. That is, can AI understand how we communicate? Can it think through problems the way we think through problems? Can it go complete the business process, learn the business process and complete tasks the way we do? And that is what we want to enable with Copilot Tuning. Our goal is to empower every customer with a personalized enterprise brain. And we want to do this in a way where you don't need an army of data scientists to go train these models or customize Copilot for you. We want to enable every information worker to be able to tune this model. And we also want to do this in a way where you can do it yourself. You don't need to expose your data, your secret sauce, to anyone outside your company. And it should have all the governance features that you've come to expect from any Microsoft product, from M365 product. So the way Copilot Tuning works at a high level is as follows. If you follow me from the bottom left, a lot of your data is already in the graph. It could be in OneDrive, in SharePoint, a lot of the data sits there. If it is not, then using Copilot connectors, we can bring a lot of data into the Microsoft graph. Once all the data is there, we then extract the metadata on top of it. Like, for example, how are jobs done? Who all collaborate? What is good, what is not? And from all of this metadata, what we build, if you look at the top left, is what we refer to as the enterprise brain. We are helping you build that enterprise brain. It is not just fine-tuned models that are fine-tuned with reasoning, RL, and all of that stuff. It includes other things as well. It includes task recipes. The way you do a job would be different from the way some other company does a job. It includes reward models. That's what's good for you. Think of reward models as small language models. The way you finish a job is different. What's good for you might be different from someone else. So we train these small reward models as well. In addition to that, we have ACLs. We believe this is an enterprise product. It needs to preserve the ACLs. We believe we are the first to have this, where because the model is trained on your data, the model learns information from the data. So what we do is we preserve the ACLs and the models. Only people who had access to the data have access to the model. And this enterprise brain then surfaces M365 Copilot. Like, for example, today you'll hear in the product how all of this comes out in terms of agents that you can then light up within your enterprise. So this is what Copilot Tuning enables then today. It helps you build this learn-it-all enterprise brain that knows what you know. It talks like you, it thinks like you, and it works like you. In a bit more technical term, when we say talks like you, it follows its supervised fine-tuning. It learns from examples. You give it examples, and it learns from them. It thinks like you. Like, when you launch a thinking model, you see these thoughts of what is it thinking before it comes out with the answer. Imagine if you could tune the thinking to think like the way you complete jobs. And it works like you, like the orchestration, which tools are called, which agents are called, and that it learns as well. So in some sense, the AI this enterprise brain is built on your data, your expertise, your workflows, and the more effort you put in training the models, the better it will become. So this is something we first announced at Build in May. And if you think of it, this is our North Star. Our North Star is that what we want to enable is for every customer, the IT goes and says, I want Copilot tuning, and the entire experience is tuned. Of course, we are not there. We have to solve a lot of problems. Right now, if you go outside of this at other products in the enterprise, most of them would be at the bottommost layer of the pyramid. You need to hire an army of data scientists, pay them some amount of money, expose your most private confidential data to them, and they'll train a model. We are going up the pyramid. At Build, what we announced in May was the layer, one layer up from the bottom. Now we are in the middle layer of what we want to enable. Essentially, we've started with tuning a model. Now you can tune an agent. So we'll be talking about a set of agents that you can tune on your data and on your workflows. So as I said, when we announced this product in May, there were two steps involved. One, someone in your enterprise had to go train a model, tune a model, and then someone else would have to go build an agent. We listened to our customers, and we modified the workflow. This is the workflow that exists, that we'll be enabling very soon. Essentially, an information worker, anyone who uses M365 Copilot, will first specify the jobs to be done. Basically, it's what is the job they are trying to do, along with what are the rubrics. By rubrics, what we mean are assertions. Like, for example, if you're doing an RFP response, what is a good RFP response versus not? So being able to specify that in terms of prompts. The first thing we do, this is something new we added, is we first do some evals. That's if I say this is a job to be done, I want to do RFP evals, I want to create an RFP response. You first take, say a doc generation agent, and then come up with an eval. You'll say, does this solve my problem or not? If it does solve your problem, you don't need to fine tune. You could just stop there and use that agent. You could just publish that agent and use it. But if it doesn't, then you go through the rest of the step. You'd go through a data preparation phase. You'll go through that data, clean up the data with a subject matter expert in the loop. We'll then click fine tuning. Fine tuning would take a few days to complete. You'll then see the output. You will evaluate the tuned model with the tuned agent to see, hey, does it solve my problem? If it does, you can publish and start using that agent. You'll see the entire flow very soon. But if you look at it, there are several hard problems that need to be solved in order to enable this workflow. Like, how do you create this? How do you do data prep, the one you see with the subject matter expert in the loop? How do you do evals? How do you do fine tuning? So I'll talk about some of these hard problems that we had to solve. These are science papers. This was an ICML paper, which is a top-tier AI conference, which is not just a paper. We actually published it in, we put it in the product as well. The problem that we are looking to solve here is when you're fine-tuning a model, you want the data to be really clean. Like, for example, suppose you're writing an agreement writing agent. Right now, the data people can point to is say, you know, go to the SharePoint site. I have a lot of agreements. I have 5,000 agreements there. But you know, some of them might be unfinished. Some of them might not be good quality. If you're training a model, you want to train on that few samples that are really good, say a few hundred that are really good. How do you find out from the 5,000 documents which are those 500 that are really good? Well, you could either have someone go through all the documents, which is going to be really cumbersome. Or you could, right now, the state of the art, if you look outside at what other companies are doing, they'll say, you know, AI can do it for me. You push AI on these 5,000 documents, you'll get to about 70 to 75% accuracy in cleaning the data. You'll see it in the paper. But the point you'll see is even at 25% of bad samples will significantly hurt the model. What we did in this work was our key insight was that many of these enterprises that we work with have experts. They have experts who can go and label the data, but we don't want them to label all the 5,000 samples. So the key idea that the team came up with was to train a reward model. And essentially, if you train the reward model on the entire samples, the output looks like that graph you're seeing on the top right. Essentially, it has an elbow and a knee. I know it looks weird in the anatomy here of an elbow and a knee, but imagine that's the elbow and the knee. Anything to the left of the elbow is great samples. Anything to the right of the knee are bad samples. So what we did, the key idea the team came up with was rather than having the subject matter expert go and label all the data, what if they labeled only very few samples around the elbow and the knee, and you would repeat this step. You do it a few times, and you can flatten the curve. If you flatten the middle part of the curve, you get really good samples to train your model. In the paper, we talk about how doing that in a few samples, like 6 iterations with like few samples labeled, you can get really high quality human level labeled data. This was one of the work. Another work we had to do was on evals. Like, for example, if I have to evaluate the agent, Suppose you're writing that agreement writing agent. A lot of times you might not have great quality agreements. Like you might say, I have 5 samples. I don't have a lot, but I want to create 50 to test my model. How do I create 50? So this is where the team came up with another key idea, which is again shipping in the product, is to take a few samples and then use a generator and a judge together in the loop. These are 2 large language models iterating multiple times to create a very high quality data set. This is something that is not published but will be published soon. Another work we did was on RL fine-tuning. These are all hard problems that is all put together in the product. Here, you might have heard of reasoning. There's lots of these models coming out. People say we beat the math benchmark. We did even better in this medical exam, in this physics Olympiad, math Olympiad. The thing is, those problems are easily verifiable. So when I'm doing RL fine-tuning, reinforcement learning fine-tuning, essentially what you do is you would run the LLM, you would give it the prompt, come up with the output, and then verify if the output is good or not. Say it's a math problem or a coding problem. You can easily check. But the thing is, in a lot of productivity tasks, like if I'm writing a Word document, I'm creating a PowerPoint slide, what is good, what is bad? It's subjective. It's hard to verify and give it a score 1 to 10. You cannot verify it like a math problem or a coding problem. So the key idea the team came up with here was, rather than just trying to measure the output, what if you could grade the chain of thought? The key idea here was, take the chain of thought, like do step A, B, C. What's the likelihood of the next set of tokens to match the good output? And using that, in the paper, we show that we can actually significantly improve the results for these productivity tasks. So here, with a lot of RL fine-tuning, you're not just fine-tuning on tasks which are measurable. You can fine-tune for a lot of productivity tasks as well. This is just giving you a sample of what our team has developed. Our team has really high-end scientists as other work. This is just on some of the horizontal components. If you look at the recipes itself, so one of the recipes is on expert question answer. Given a corpus of data, how can I more accurately answer every question that you ask? This is, again, the team came up with new science that they will publish. There's one of the agents you'll hear about called Optimizer, which was, again, a breakthrough on orchestration. So all of this then comes together in the product. I talked about the science, but now you'll hear about the product, the engineering, and how you can use it. With that, I'll hand it over to Kalyan.
Thank you, Ranveer. All right, so you heard about Copilot Tuning, the vision, the science behind it. But what does it mean for you, and when do you use it in your organizations? When you have high-value tasks that you believe can be supercharged with your Copilot or agent, with your organization's data and expertise, that's when Copilot Tuning shines the most. This enables you to take on work that slows down your people and convert that into leverage. And this work is typically done in organizations by analysts, like a risk analyst, like a finance manager, or a legal associate. They're doing the hard work in the organization. And we believe that they are the best people to actually train or teach Copilot the way you do that specific task or business process. So we designed Copilot Tuning to be accessible by the information workers in various domains. We have abstracted away all the complexity of fine-tuning. You don't need to know the APIs. You don't need to know the model hyperparameters or the model choices. We have taken care of all of that. And you and the domain expert, in this case, who are most familiar with this task, can interact with the system and teach Copilot the way your organization does that particular task. And so, but then how does a domain expert teach Copilot? It's very similar to the way you would onboard a new hire into your team. Right? You provide them the context of your organization. You provide them the tools that the organization uses, your organization, and the way you use that. And maybe you'll show them some examples of how your company has been creating that task or that proposal or the document in your style and in your manner. And maybe even give some feedback to the early onboarding new hires. This is exactly the same way we think of you as a domain expert be able to tune Copilot and the agents with Copilot Tuning. Let me make this more concrete. Let's take an example of document writing. We're all familiar, or we've been asked in our line of works to produce documents of various lengths, like say 2 pages to 200 pages. All of these documents have something in common. They basically distill your experience, the tribal knowledge that exists within your company, and your expertise. That's how these documents come to life. Now, what if Copilot Tuning enables you to basically distill that expertise and train the Copilot, or train basically the Copilot to mimic or to basically be an expert similar on par with you, right? And Copilot Tuning is the way to do that. Once you have a tuned document drafting or a document writing agent, it will be able to essentially interpret any new information that you want to integrate with a reference or a template. So typically what happens when you're starting to create a long document, you start with a reference or a template or some historical document you've used in the past. And the task becomes an SME or the subject matter expert in that domain would interpret the new context into that template. Now with Copilot Tuning, if you've tuned this agent with your past expert documents, past exemplar documents, essentially this agent will now be able to intelligently interpret that new information into the reference and templates. It's no longer just manual copy-paste, but it's actually intelligently interpreting that information into these references. So you can use this agent in a variety of use cases. For example, like a proposal for an RFP or contracts in legal space, or even like policy documents and even technical documentations. Let's make this example a little bit more complex. Let's say you have already tuned a document writing agent. That's the box number 1. This document writing agent would take 2 inputs. One is a specification. That's the content that you want to integrate into this and elaborate and create a long form document around. And then your company's standard template or reference. But let's imagine for this particular deal or this particular scenario, you don't have a reference template. How does this document writing agent work? We got you covered. Basically, just like you have trained this document writer agent on your content, you can even orchestrate additional tools and augment this document writing agent to do more extensible stuff. For example, in this case, since the template does not exist in your company, you could integrate Researcher as a tool that this agent can rely on and generate a reference file or a template on the fly. Now imagine, so that's like the box number 2 getting connected to box number 1, right? Now you might think, okay, once I have produced a draft, I want to make sure this draft is actually aligned with my company's rules and regulations and policy. Then you might want to integrate another tool and say, well, in this case, for example, box number 3, which is a doc validation. So here's another agent or a tool that basically understands your company's rule books and policies and ensures that the document that was produced by the document writer agent adheres to those standards. So in this way, just like you teach a new hire to use tools of your business, essentially you're teaching the document writer agent what tools exist in your space that matter for workflow, and you're able to orchestrate that in a very declarative manner. Document writing, to show this demo in real product, I would like to invite Tanaya and Khushboo onto stage.
All right, I hope you all are excited to see some product demos, to see how we're bringing all this cool tech into your hands. Just gonna get things set up. Sorry, this is just gonna take a sec. Okay, I think we are good. Okay. Can folks see this? Just gonna, all right. Okay, sorry about that. Took a sec for us to get everything set up. So hi everyone, I'm Khushboo. I lead engineering for Copilot Tuning product. And today, Tanya and I will show you some cool demos on how we're bringing this tech into a product. So first, we'll start with how you can experience this today. So this is something we launched at Build, an EAP program for customers to sign up through an EAP nomination process. And this is something where you can go to Copilot Studio and start creating your first models. The first step is you basically configure this model. So in this case, you give it a name, a description, and choose what knowledge your model is going to be grounded in. In this case, I'm training this model to generate legal agreements. So I go ahead and select that as the previous knowledge source. After that, you select who is going to have access to this particular model. Here, I'm going to select a few security groups that I think should have access to this model. And then we go ahead and select the task type. In this case, this is a document generation task. And then after that, the system prompts me to write some simple instructions to guide the tuning process. So this is all natural language instructions that I can put in. And then once I do that, Copilot Tuning kicks into gears. It takes your raw data, cleans it up, and then fixes the ACL. So make sure like whatever security groups you had put in, filters it based on that, and then also pulls some samples for labeling. This is the tech that Ranveer talked about, where we use 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗲 to train a reward model based on your sample labels to further guide the tuning process. Once everything is labeled, you're ready to start the training process. The system, with the click of a button, trains the models and generates evaluation results. Once the evaluation results are available, you can judge them and then say, make a decision on whether this looks good, and then integrate it into product. And with just few simple clicks, I was able to go through the end-to-end cycle of fine-tuning a model without actually going and coding anything. So we converted it into a no-code recipe. But we are not done with this. As we've been running this EAP, many of you have asked us, what else can I do to customize my agents? And how much is fine-tuning helping me? To make this whole experience fully self-serve and transparent, we are introducing a try, tune, and evaluate approach for fine-tuning agents and not just models. Very soon, customers will be able to go to Copilot Studio Lite and create task-specific agents using templates. And because everyone wants to know, is this actually helping? We are giving you clear performance insights tailored to your business goals to see how each tuning step is going to impact your agent's results. To give you a sneak peek into this upcoming streamlined flow, I'd like to invite Tanaya on stage. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, 10 more seconds for the setup. Of course, the demo gods are never with you when you really need them. All right. Thanks, Khushboo. Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya. I'm a product manager at Copilot Tuning. And for the scope of this demo, I'm stepping into the role of a legal executive at 𝗲𝗲. 𝗲𝗲's business relies heavily on joint development partnerships between research labs and startups. And that means I have to deal with a lot of long-form generation documents, specifically the legal ones. And I want to speed up this drafting while staying consistent with our internal playbooks without compromising on compliance, risk postures, or even accuracy. You know, I just want Copilot to get me, just like my therapist, but maybe faster. But is that too much to ask? Not so much with Copilot Tuning. I'm starting with the very familiar Copilot Studio Lite in Microsoft 365 Copilot, where I'm going to be picking up the document writing template. each of Copilot Tuning's template now come with supports tuning tag so that you can easily distinguish them. As Kalyan mentioned, document writing is great at creating the first drafts of the documents. And so I go into the configuration pane and I quickly change the name of my agent to say 𝗲𝗲 Contract Drafter. Of course, demo gods are never there with you when you need them. Sorry. This is working fine.
Is it just going to sleep because you need like power maybe?
No, I have power.
Can you try her? What?
I will try. Give it a try. 1 second.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just try with my laptop. Guess you're in the configuration. Yeah, go for it. All right. Just click to. Yeah.
All right, we're back. All right, so I was here in the configuration pane of the agent builder, where I'm going to quickly change the name of my agent to say 𝗲𝗲 Contract Drafter, and I'm going to add description and instructions to it. Like this agent helps users transform a joint development term sheet into a polished first draft agreement based on 𝗲𝗲's preferred contract structure. The agent interprets deal terms, extracts key facts, and produces a full agreement that reflects 𝗲𝗲's standard drafting style and legal posture. This is a very pivotal step because this is the only place where I would be asking you to use a keyboard. And with that, the template scaffolds everything for me, and with that, I have the first draft of the agent available to me, which is the 𝗲𝗲 Contract Drafter. This is still great at providing a generalist answers. However, it's not very specific to the 𝗲𝗲 style of working. And so with every Copilot tuning template, we now have the ability to tune the agent from within this agent. So I move into the tuning option. And I begin tuning. Tuning context is a guided way to tell the agent what really matters. You define the agent's goals, you highlight the performance dimensions you care about the most, and add the artifacts that are going to represent the success of your organization. So we start with tuning the context, and the first thing we do is confirm the agent's goals. And as promised, all of this is pre-filled because you're coming from Microsoft Copilot Studio Lite. And all of this looks good. It says, describe what you would want this agent to do, describe the business area or industry domain this agent supports. All of this looks great. I can also add input files that are basically going to show the agent what the input is to be expected from me, which in this case is the term sheets of 𝗲𝗲. So I'm quickly going to save this, and move on to the next step. Copilot Tuning doesn't just read your goals, it deepens them. Like that one friend who has always had this quintessential question of, what do you really want to do in life? And so with this, we expand the goals into your sub-goals, which are very specific to your domain. You can choose to look at them, you can add sub-goals, you can even remove some of the goals, and you can move to save and proceed. Once these goals are set, Copilot Tuning translates these qualitative performance metrics into quantitative evaluation rubrics that persist across your Copilot Tuning runs. And so we have 5 of these evaluation metrics that will be available with scores after every tuning iteration. So for example, here I have completeness and correctness of all defined terms from the term sheet and precedence, adherence to Java's standard clause structure, language and boilerplate, and so forth. Copilot Tuning immediately puts your agent to test. With 𝗬𝗲, as Ranveer mentioned, it works its magic under the hood. It generates a rich set of evaluation queries shaped by the inputs that you have produced along with the metrics that matter to you. And in no time, you have the first set of evaluation available to you. You have the results here with the scores. With that, you also have the insights available to see how the agent is performing and what you can do to make it better. You can choose to stop here. You can start using the agent as is, or you can move further to tuning the tools. With tuning the tools, you connect to other tuned agents and expand your agent's capability to handle richer and more complex tasks. So here, I first want to just use the contract that has been drafted by Java to also be reviewed by the agent internally, which is why I'm going to click on Document Reviewer so that I can use Java's internal legal reviewer agent, which is already pre-tuned on my internal playbooks, and move ahead with the drafting. And optionally, I think I also want to add researcher here. In case I don't have a precedence available, I just wanted to understand the corpus of information I have in my organization already so that it can create one for me if I don't have it available and just run with it. Optionally, I can also add the custom instructions that I just mentioned, which is use researcher when no precedence is provided and build it according to Java's historical context and send these relevant internal policies to Java's legal reviewer so that the final draft that you have available is truly working the way I work at Java. With this, I get my second set of evaluation results, which is after tuning the tools, and I can clearly see how the agent has moved the needle with tuning the tools. So again, I can use the agent as is, or if I like to be a 10 on 10, I would like to go further and tune my model. Tuning the model is tuning the underlying LLM to the corpus of organizational data that you already have in your organization. So this is greatly going to be improving the performance and take it top-notch from there on. So I will move into tuning the model. And the first step here is we teach the agent how we think and work and talk at Java. And this is using our full precedence library as input in the first step. And this is how the agent uniquely learns how you can draft the contracts in Java. It's kind of forming like the mini enterprise brain at this point for Java. The next step is security and compliance. Microsoft products are built on trust, and security and compliance is at the heart of it. That's why, based on the access to the training data, as Ranveer mentioned, ACLs, we make recommendations on who should be allowed to access this agent while optimizing for data coverage, ensuring that there's no data leakage, but at the same time, the training data that you have available is optimized and increased so that the agent can learn from as much of information as possible. So here I have about 71% of file coverage, which is great, and I have 4 groups that I can share it with. I optionally also have the ability to see more recommendations, or I can choose my own security groups. If my organization uses sensitivity labels, now is the great time to attest the sensitivity label here and move on with the next step. And that's it. With one click, I start my fine-tuning process. The final step of fine-tuning is another place where my Java-specific expertise comes into picture. I simply show Copilot Tuning what good looks like with a few examples, and Ranveer touched upon this as 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗃, which is our data preparation method. And with that, our training pairs are taken, and we train the agent's reward model to think and work and act like Java. With that, I get the third set of evaluations where I can quickly see how my agent has drastically improved in its performance, all without even trying the agent yet. So I'm going to put it to a final test where I'm going to finally check how it's performing. So here I want to draft a precedence agreement using the template as reference and the term sheet as the changes to be included. And let's see how it does. Copilot Tuning is doing its magic, and this final draft that we will receive is basically reflective of the enterprise brain that's built into the agent. Our style, our structure, our legal posture. Bringing it all back home. Tuning context, tuning tools, and tuning the model work together to build an agent that accurately reflects how your business works. And as you tune, you can also see immediately what is improving within the agent. So instead of guessing, you're guiding. And instead of hoping, you're actually deciding. And we are just getting started. We can't wait to see what you build next. Back to you, Kalyan.
All right, so we saw the demo, in-depth demo, but document writing is just one of the tasks that you can tune with Copilot Tuning. We have document summary and expert answers that Ranveer also alluded to as additional agents and recipes that you can try today. And pretty soon, we are expanding that portfolio to include document validation, style editing, and optimization. Document validation is like the one we alluded in the demo as well as in the intro, which is teaching your company rules and policies around documents of various kinds. It's document validation. Style editing is a complementary part of that, which is where you have your brand, style, and voice captured through Copilot Tuning in style editing recipe. And optimization agent is essentially you teaching Copilot to understand the way your business operates, and then be able to communicate in natural language the goals and objectives and constraints that you might want to solve. And the optimization agent is going to actually find the optimal solution. Think of a problem like you want to assign sales representatives to cover different territories or accounts. You would use an optimization agent with that. And Copilot understands the way you do business and can give you customized solutions for that. All right, and as we know, performance and quality is one aspect, but Copilot Tuning within M365 takes utmost care about your data, and we want to make sure you walk away with this understanding that all of this fine-tuning that's happening is happening in the tenant-isolated environments. And your data never leaves the M365 trust boundary, and as I think Ranveer alluded and we showed in the demo, the ACLs the model inherits are from the data. So there's no oversharing of the data that happens. And your AI admins are always in control about how to manage these tuned agents. When information workers have access to these agents, you want to make sure that there is central authority, a point of control on the deployment and the use of this tuned agent. So we make sure the admins have great control over these tuned agents. One particular governance control that I want to highlight is the number 2 on this one, where you as an AI admin can decide what the scope of availability of Copilot Tuning. You can make it broadly available to every information worker in your company or in your tenant, or you could say, I want to restrict the Copilot tuning to a set of users and security groups, you can do that, or you can completely turn off. And the rest of the other controls are all adhering to the M365 agent control framework. What excites us most is what our customers are doing, customers and partners are doing together with us and inventing the future. First, I would like to highlight Ernst & Young, which is a leader in tax and professional services. They have been a great customer of Copilot Tuning, and they built a tax advisory agent. Let's take a look at it.
Tax Advisory Reimagined. Together with our partner Microsoft, 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗃 is launching the Tax Advisor Agent, powered by Copilot Tuning, an enterprise AI tax agent that talks, thinks, and works like a tax advisor, with deep tax and contextual knowledge. What makes it unique? It combines individual knowledge of the client and issue context with EY's collective expertise as well as external content. All of this is delivered where advisors naturally work, in Copilot, streamlining deliverable creation. When a client asks a question, our custom agent uses a language model fine-tuned on EY tax knowledge and the common search patterns of our advisory work using Copilot Tuning. It retrieves technical content from enterprise databases, it enriches context with files and client history via enterprise search, and it synthesizes everything into a transparent, well-referenced answer for review. This saves time and improves quality, a greater scope and deeper insights. And this is just the beginning. We're excited to scale the Tax Advisor agent to 75,000 EY tax professionals and beyond, adding new capabilities to transform tax advisory.
Next up is Josh Bersin. This is a leader in HR intelligence and advisory space, and they built a tuned agent that basically captures the expertise of Josh Bersin company, along with in this case, the customer's HR data. So essentially you have, here's the screenshot of an agent responding with the expertise that's captured in Josh Bersin's content, as well as in the style and in the voice that the customer wants to communicate with their employees. So that is possible with Copilot Tuning uniquely. And finally, I have Pearson, which is a leader in education and skilling space. They've built a communication coach agent with the help of Copilot Tuning. And let's see the video. Skip the video. And today we have GP from Pearson, who's a VP at Pearson, join us to tell us a little bit about why they built the communication coach agent and educate us on the journey there.
Thank you, Kalyan. I'm really excited to be here and representing the teams that have been working together and collaborating with Microsoft to bring this great innovation to life. What the communication coach does is basically bringing the learning in the flow of work. We all know how it is like. At the end of the day, we have gone through endless number of notifications on our phones and emails and back-to-back meetings, and there's no real time to actually learn new things and focus on upscaling ourselves. The communication coach is an application that learns while you do your job, so process all the meetings, recordings, and extracts information and gives you feedback on how do you improve your communication skills, how you improve clarity. And what we have done through the Copilot Tuning is to give the superpower to the communication coach. We already had overwhelming feedback from the customers, the internal pilot users that we have used with our application. And this helps not only the people that have English as a second language, but also those that are having English as the first language. And it's with the superpowers of the fine tuning that we can add a layer that makes it more contextual to their company value, culture, and knowledge base. So it feels like talking to a mentor in your own company, or a coach, or a colleague, and knows about your projects and the language and everything that you are doing on a daily basis.
Thank you, GP. You have a booth at the hub as well, right?
Yeah, we are at 5500, so please come visit. This is now the application is going in general availability for at the end of March 2026, and we will select some partners and customers who want to pilot the fine-tune agent. So sign up and stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you, GP. Very appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I want to thank a lot more partners who are helping us shape the future of this product. I'm excited to work with all of these customers, and then we'll invite back Ranveer onto the stage.
Thank you, Kalyan. And we have all these customers, including NFP, that use Copilot Tuning to extract health plan benefits and coverage. And that is actually increasing estimated 60 to 70% of processing time. So thank you again for all our customers and partners. These are just some of the best practices of how you should go about tuning. Have a clear business goal in mind. It should be high value. Assemble your SMEs and bring everything together and start using Copilot Tuning. With that, we are making all these capabilities available very soon. Please scan this to learn more about Copilot Tuning. Join us in our journey of transforming enterprise work with AI and helping us democratize post-training to help you build your own enterprise brain.